last spring, right after I got hired, I had an opportunity to go to Corvallis and go to Pullman. Obviously, I had a lot of pre-existing relationships with those coaches and those student athletes. And when I stood in those rooms and looked at those young people in the eyes and saw the pain, saw the disappointment, saw the discouragement over what had happened to them, I was bound and determined to find a path forward that they would be excited about, that they would be proud of.
Yo, welcome back. Week 4 of the Nick and Nigel Show. Man, so happy that you guys joined us once again on the Pac-12 Insider on Samsung TV Plus, channel 2392, Samsung Connected TVs, and Amazon Freebies. Search Insider. You can watch Nick and Nigel on the Pac-12's YouTube page. And of course, our show is always brought to you by Cloud Filters Pub at 1501 Northwest Monroe Avenue in Corvallis, Oregon. It's the place to go before, during, and after the game, and brought to you by our friends at MDI Management for exceptional luxury apartment living in Oregon's Mid-Willamette Valley. And always joined by my friend from the Oregon's Mid-Willamette Valley, my guy, Nick Aliotti. Coach, how we doing this morning?
Good morning, Nigel. I'm doing fantastic. It's always a good day to start it with you. We have a lot of fun, ready to get going.
Hey, I just wonder, man, you kind of incognito a little bit today. Like, are the feds after you? What's happening right now? You're rocking the hat, the glasses. I'm just wondering, like, do we have to? Do we need to worry? Are you good?
So far, so good. But I've had some comments on our shows most recently, so I'm trying to lay low, Nigel. I don't want them to find. We can't give out my address because it's a little scary right now.
Well, I don't know which game you want to dive into most, because I'll be honest with you, like, if you want, let's just go dive right into it, because we had the rivalry game, Oregon State. I know you were thick in it, watching it. I mean, look, 49-14 is not exactly what Beavs fans were looking forward to coming out of this thing. I mean, Dillon Gabriel, holy smokes, this dude was dealing. Oregon State defense just struggled to get pressure. Struggled a little bit to run the ball. It looked good early, and then just tell me, like, where did things kind of fall apart for you for the Beavs?
Well, the bottom line was, I don't believe in the first 55 minutes of that game, and it might have been the whole game, Oregon had 0 negative plays. 0. No tackles for loss, no sacks, and every play was at least a 4 or 5 yard gain, and even more. And Dillon Gabriel was spot on, throwing it, running it. Jordan James ran the ball well. It really was a classic. They were just outmatched on this particular Saturday. The bottom line is they were outmatched in all phases, and Oregon just rolled. I thought that Oregon State ran the ball fairly well. McCoy was sharp, but I still contend that Oregon State, they're not throwing the ball down the field. And when you can't throw the ball down the field and you can't create explosion plays, it's hard to drive it. You and I have talked about that a bunch. And I don't believe they had a play over 20 to 25 yards that whole game against Oregon. So until they can throw the ball down the field, people are going to crowd that box, and that run's going to get a little bit harder for Oregon State.
Yeah, Coach. I mean, one run of 37 yards was that run that McCoy had on that scramble that really got him in a scoring position. Hey, once again, kind of the weird snapping field goal mechanics really, it led to the things kind of falling apart for Oregon State on that first drive when they showed so much promise. Here's the thing that I really want to see out of the Beavs. I think Trent Walker, man, I think he's a thing. I think he can do some nice things. I really feel like, in order for that offense to really go, Taz Reddix has to get going. I think in particular, the guy that I haven't seen a whole lot of is Terry, the tight end, who was really one of their best offensive weapons coming into the season. Him and Caulfield really work in the middle, so now Trent Walker can really work a little bit deeper. And then Darius Clemens was the big transfer out of Michigan, Oregon kid, Westview High School. he's a guy who is a deep threat, big body, can run, all those things. He's been injured all this whole beginning of the season. I think hopefully he's able to get into the mix. And you're right, Coach. If they can't spread the field, if they can't stretch the field and really make secondaries have to worry about getting the ball thrown over their head, which I think Darius Clemens can really help with, there's going to be some issues. Now, the schedule starts. It's weird that you say the schedule softens up with a Big Ten team coming in Purdue, but let's be honest. Purdue got taken behind the woodshed, got the woodshed picked up, thrown back on them. I mean, it was Notre Dame took out some frustrations on them Boilermakers.
Yeah, I think I'm going to start with this. Walker, I'm very impressed with Walker. He reminds me of a young Dave Montagna. You know, he has those kind of skills. You know, a guy that's understated, you don't know much about, and then he's catching balls and he breaks tackles and he does some good things. So I'll start with that. But Purdue has not looked very good, and they got to fly all the way across that country to come to Corvallis. I think Oregon State knows what they have to do. Bray has a recipe, run that ball, but they do need to throw that ball down the field a little bit better, make the defense respect it, and then play good defense. And I think they'll match up much better with Purdue, unfortunately, than they did with Oregon.
Well, hey, we got to move on to the next game because, hey, I was there live and in Technicolor. The Apple Cup, you talk about a fan base that was upset now. I mean, hey, I was sitting on the purple side, but that place was absolutely rocking. They had one of these, Coach, they had one of those big old I don't even know what number. I know they got B-52s, they got the big old bombers, they got the stealth ones. This was the biggest plane I've ever seen in my life. It looked like a luxury apartment complex flying over top of this thing to start the game off. That place was crazy. Crimson was rolling. The Cougs come out with a massive win, 24-19 over the Dogs in Lumen Field. Our guy John Mateer went off again. Coach, 17-34, 245 yards passing, 1 touchdown, then added another 62, 2 more touchdowns running the ball on a 3rd and 20. I mean, my man was absolutely dealing, and it didn't matter what situation you put him in, he was able to find a way to get out of jams.
Well, the first thing the Huskies need to do, we're going to get to the Cougs, is they need to get that Jace Burton some playing time. That's the first thing they got to do, and that'll solve some problem. But speaking of Washington State, John Mateer in 3 games has been absolutely fabulous. And you know what? I got to tip my hat. In today's world, Nigel, there are no secrets in recruiting. Who in the heck found this guy? Because this guy's as good as any quarterback after 3 games in the country in college football. And I'd like to know who else recruited him, because to me,
I got your answer. You know what it was? It was go to Wazoo or go to Incarnate Word. That was it. I mean, he had a couple of FCS offers and nobody else. And if he's not the most quintessential Wazoo, Kuru, legendary player, nobody is really banging down the door asking, hey, come play for us, shows up. And what do they always do on the Palouse? They develop guys. And he has developed into, just like you said, one of the best guys in the country, Coach. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I had the answer to your question.
No, you didn't cut me off at all. I mean, John Mateer is why Washington State is 3-0. No question. I don't know who the second guy is, but like I said, whoever got this Mateer kid, because I was not sure he could throw the ball like he's throwing it. Those intermediate passes are rockets. They're bullets. And then we always talk about, as a defensive guy, when a quarterback can hurt you with his legs, which this guy certainly can, what a gem they have at Washington State. Mateer has been the straw that stirs the drink there at Washington State. And then what a great goal line stance by Washington State at the end of that game to win the game. because first and goal at the 9 for Washington. I really thought they had a chance to stick it in, but that fourth down play option into the boundary, oh my gosh.
Hey, with two overhang players. Hey, for those at home trying to figure out how speed option works, typically, if you're going to run a speed option, you're optioning off the last man on the line of scrimmage. If there's another guy outside of that guy, you're going to have problems. So I don't know what the deal was with the play call. Obviously, Thornton with a huge play. Not only does he take out the quarterback, also takes out the running back, who honestly, again, I mean, you had a situation there where, Jonah Coleman was having another great day at 5.4 yards a carry. I mean, he carried the ball twice. It was a first down. Again, when he runs sideways, it's not the same as when he's downhill. But again, Wazoo with the big goal line stand. And, hey, props to the defense, in particular, getting off the field on third down. You and I both know as defensive coaches, that is the money down. 4 of 13. That's all Washington was on third down. 4 of 13. If you're holding offenses to 4 of 13 on third down, you're having a pretty good day when you're able to do those sorts of things, Coach.
Absolutely. Washington State's defense has surprised me to this point. Okay. Now they got a tough one, I think, tougher than everybody might think, with San Jose State coming there this weekend on Friday night. San Jose State is one of those teams that always has some really skilled, explosive athletes that can hurt you. So hopefully Washington State, after a big game at Washington that they won to go 3-0, keep that focus, keep that foot on the pedal, because San Jose State is no joke. They're also 3-0 coming in. Now, they haven't played the same schedule as Washington State has, but they have some scary good athletes at times.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Coach, talking about those trap games. I remember when we were at Oregon State, we beat USC, number 3 in the country, ended their win streak. Everybody's going crazy, partying in Corvallis. And the first thing Alan Darlin said in the locker room was, all this doesn't mean a thing if we lose to Arizona State next week, who was obviously not as good as USC back then. And what did we do? We went out, took care of business against Arizona State. And so that's what mature teams do. So hopefully Wazoo comes back. Mature guys, you got Thornton, you got Material, you got a bunch of guys around who play some football. Know that, hey, get those guys focused up, because you're absolutely right. San Jose State, short week, all those things, big game. It's going to present a challenge for Wazoo, but nothing that they can't handle. And in particular, on a Friday night national television. Hey, something else that we can obviously handle is we got the commish. That's right, an exclusive with the commish. Teresa Gould joins us next on the Nick and Nigel Show to tell us everything that happened with the seismic news of Pac-12 expansion. Coming up next on the Nick and Nigel Show. Welcome back to the Nick and Nigel Show, once again brought to you by Clodfelters, the place to watch the game in Corvallis before and after. Also, our friends at MDI Management for exceptional luxury apartment living in Oregon's Willamette Valley. Can't wait to bring in our next guest, longtime friend, the commish, the head woman in charge. Teresa Gould joins us on the Nick and Nigel Show. Teresa, how are you?
I'm doing great, Nigel. It's been an exciting week, so I'm invigorated by all of the great news we've had over the last week, for sure.
Well, let's just dive right into it. I think a lot of fans, and myself included, are just really curious, just chronologically, how all this happened, because, you're out and about, I'm out and about. The amount of questions that we all receive, like, what's going to happen? What's next? And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, bam, you dropped just the greatest news for all of us Pac-12 fans. Can you take me through, how did all this start and then get to the point where the Pac-12 is now going to add Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, and I'm so excited. I can't even think of everybody. That's how excited I am.
Well, first, I just have to say, Nigel, I certainly appreciate your support and your enthusiasm for the Pac-12. It means a lot. So look, I've been on the job. I think this is month 7, right? And from day one, I have been working tirelessly in conjunction with our leaders at Oregon State and Washington State to pursue any and all options for the future. And I've said this publicly, and I'll reiterate it. I didn't go into this role with any preconceived notion about what the solution to this opportunity was going to be. right? I had a lot of people say, oh, you were hired to rebuild the Pac-12. And I would say, no, I wasn't hired to rebuild the Pac-12. I was hired to forge the best path forward for these two institutions. And really, for 7 months, we've been collaborating to uncover every stone and really, really strongly consider every option. That might be membership in another conference. It might be a merger with another conference. It might be a rebuild, right? We really did spend 6, 7 months evaluating, analyzing, looking at every opportunity that might be out there and trying to create some of our own opportunities. And at the end of the day, in recent weeks, it started to become really, really obvious that the best possibility for the vision that we had for the future of Oregon State and Washington State was for us to rebuild the Pac-12. We really felt strongly that controlling our own destiny, maintaining the Pac-12 brand, attracting other institutions that have similar competitive aspirations was the best path forward for Oregon State and Washington State. And I think the good news is that we found 4 great institutions that had those same aspirations and were interested in us, and ultimately in a short period of time applied for membership, and our board approved their application. So it's really, really exciting. And I think we have the right 4 institutions to partner with us to then figure out what's next and how do we want to kind of reimagine the future of the Pac-12.
Well, you had mentioned, this happened in a very short amount of time. I mean, what was the time frame in which it was, okay, we've identified this is the path we want to go. Here are the institutions that we'd like to join us. And then the agreement happened. Was it a matter of weeks, months, or days?
Yeah, as I mentioned, the evaluation and the analysis had been going on for months. So we were kind of looking at anything and everything and considering all these different options against our metrics and kind of our priorities for OSU and WSU. I would say, the engagement with these 4 kind of priority institutions and ultimately their application and the acceptance happened in, weeks, days leading up to the announcement. It happened very, very fast and was very accelerated.
Well, you and I go way back, and I really appreciate the fact that not only are you the first female power conference commissioner, but also you always put the student athlete first. And I texted you, great job. And I don't know what response I expected, but when you responded, this is what you responded. Nigel, thank you. I want to do right by these kids. It was such a Teresa response. It really was. And I'm wondering, with all this stuff that's been going on, it seems that student athlete welfare has really been pushed way to the back burner. How important has it been for you to keep student athletes in the forefront of all these discussions?
Yeah, well, thanks, Nigel. It's actually hard for me to kind of even talk about this without a lot of emotion percolating up in my gut. But look, I've been doing this for 35 years, and providing opportunities for student athletes is and will always be my why. It's why I have a job. It's why I do this work. And last spring, right after I got hired, I had an opportunity to go to Corvallis and go to Pullman. Obviously, I had a lot of pre-existing relationships with those coaches and those student athletes. And when I stood in those rooms and looked at those young people in the eyes and saw the pain, saw the disappointment, saw the discouragement over what had happened to them, I was bound and determined to find a path forward that they would be excited about, that they would be proud of, that would allow them to continue to do on these 2 campuses what they came there to do, which is compete at the highest level, get a great education, have a robust campus experience. And yeah, I think, this business in so many ways, we've kind of lost our way, and it's a really complicated, difficult marketplace to navigate in college athletics. For me, the thing that keeps me focused and driven and motivated is them, and making sure that every day I'm getting up and thinking about, what is best for them and what do I need to do to put them in a position to succeed. So look, the joy that I had when this came to the fore, when all the agreements were signed, when everything was a done deal. I think it's been widely reported. I was standing at baggage claim at LAX, and I literally had tears. Like, I stood for a moment and literally had tears because I was like, wow, we did this. Like, we did this.
Absolutely.
I just wished I could have been in Corvallis and Pullman to be there when it was communicated to them. But I've gotten great stories from both athletic directors, and I'm super happy for them.
Well, I'm not sure that I teared up, but my heart was definitely racing. Before we let you go, obviously there's still more work to do. There's 6 schools. There at least has to be 2 more added in order to become a conference and all that stuff. But that's we'll worry about that later. In the nearest future is obviously the scheduling deal with the Mountain West that's gone. And so there's still the 2025 season to play before these teams get added in 2026. Is there a plan? Or I know those are the questions I'm getting already from Corvallis and from Pullman. Okay, well, that's great. We're super excited. What the heck are we going to do for 2025 in terms of scheduling these football games?
Yeah, Nigel, there absolutely is a plan. And when we decided that exercising year 2 of that agreement didn't make sense for us, we very quickly pivoted into, working with outside consultants, both athletic directors, on an independent schedule that accomplishes all of our goals for these football programs. We want them to have a competitive schedule. We want them to have a national brand. We want lots of eyeballs on these games. And I think we're making great progress on an independent schedule that hopefully we can finalize and move forward here in the coming weeks and make an announcement. But I feel really good that the schedule that we are working on will accomplish all of our aspirations for these 2 programs.
Well, Teresa, thank you so much for joining us. We got to have you back on because we still got so much to go through. Great news, great games, all those things. So hopefully you get some time to join us back on Nick and Nigel sometime in the near future.
I'll always make time for you two. I'm happy to come on anytime.
Well, appreciate it and appreciate the time. And hey, stick around. Nick and Nigel coming up next. Well, welcome back to the final segment of the Nick and Nigel Show, once again on Pac-12 Insider on Samsung TV Plus, channel 2392 on Samsung connected TVs, and on Amazon Freevee. Search Insider. You can also watch Nick and Nigel on the Pac-12's YouTube page. And also, do not forget that this show is brought to you by Clyde Filters Pub at 1501 Northwest Monroe in Corvallis, the place to go before, during, and after all Oregon State games, and by our friends at MDI Management for luxury apartment living in the Willamette Valley. Coach, last segment before I go and mow the lawn out there, because it might get a little wet out here in Oregon today. So I gotta go hit the lawn. I guess you weren't too impressed. You said that's maintenance.
I don't do maintenance. I'll tell you what, I stay away from that kind of stuff. Heck, when I drive by Home Depot, I break out in hives.
I love it. You know what? It's the worst is for me. I go by Lowe's. You break out in hives at Home Depot. I go to Lowe's. I'm like Norman from Cheers, man. I walk in there like, hey, what's up, man? What you got going today? Not that I do anything right, but I'm just saying I'm there all the time. So there you go.
I don't walk into those stores.
Well, hey, speaking of walking into things, we all walked into some just obviously enormous news. Just talked to Teresa Gould. Wanted to get your take. Pac-12 expansion hit us last week, Thursday. Love the timing and everything. Boise State, Colorado State, San Diego State, Fresno State, all joining the Pac-12. 6 teams now, starting in September of 2026. So we still got one more year to try to figure out how all this thing is going to shake up. But just wanted to get your initial reaction and what your thoughts have been since the Pac-12 has expanded.
Very exciting. Teresa Gould is putting in some work. Teresa, awesome.
Yeah.
I know you just had her on, but now we have 6. We need to get to 8. I think that's already in the works. I could see, it'd be awesome, Nigel. And I hope I don't get in trouble. It'd be awesome. Cal and Stanford come back. Cal and Stanford come back. And then we maybe grab Vegas or San Jose State, whoever, get a 10-team league. And And then once Teresa and we get this going, then UCLA and USC finally come to their senses and they come back. So it's a great start. Very exciting news. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but 6 with the full year to go, I think she and we get it done.
Oh, man, I love it. I love it. And look, it was a surprise, obviously, to all of us last Thursday when the news got announced. But we got all kinds of surprises this college football season already, Coach, and we're barely into the end of the season. Listen, how about this? I mean, think about all the upsets. I want to know what's the biggest surprise that you've had, whether it's games, conference realignment, like what's the biggest thing to you that is really just like, whoa, where did that come from?
2 biggest surprises for me this year, just off the top of my head, are Notre Dame losing at home to Northern Illinois. At home, 16-14, not scoring any points. Huge surprise, huge blow to Notre Dame. And then Florida State. Florida State at 0-3. And not only are they at 0-3, they don't look like a team that's really together.
Well, I don't know, Coach. Mike Norvell might be on that Nigel Burton coaching plan. I remember when we were coming up, it was like my wife and I were like, look, here's the deal. We're going to just keep doing this coaching thing, maybe get one of those multi-whatever contracts at the Power 5 level, and then we're going to mess it up on purpose so we can retire. I'm like, man, hey, my man re-up 8 years, mega money, and now he's like, you know what? Tallahassee's pretty close to the beach. So I'm not sure what's happening there, man. But yeah, I'm with you, Coach. I mean, and you know what's funny is like I keep looking at all these SEC teams and all the, right now they're in the driver's seat of the CFP. Then I'm like, well, I mean, you just had Memphis. Memphis played Florida State, but I mean, you had Georgia State upset Vanderbilt. You got Mississippi State who's lost games. So to me, it's still one of those things with the SEC is, man, it's still one of those super top-heavy leagues. Miami goes into Florida, takes them behind the woodshed. So, I mean, yeah, and listen, Georgia, Alabama, going to Wisconsin, all that jump around nonsense that they were talking about. They're like, we wanted to squash that. Yeah, elite of elite. But after that, I'm just saying, to me, I'm not buying the hype of the SEC like I never did. We could talk about that till the cows come home. But, Coach, look, it's always great to see you. Nick and Nigel Show. We're just keeping this thing rolling. Week 4. Can't wait to see it. Once again, we got Wazoo on Friday night, national television taking on San Jose State, and then the Boilermakers showing up to Corvallis to take on the Beavs. Can't wait to break it all down for you next week, Coach. Looking forward to it.
Keep watching. Keep those comments coming.
Let's make sure that Coach doesn't have to wear a mustache along with his glasses and hat next week. All right, we'll catch you next week on the Nick and Nigel Show. Peace.
Peace.